Hi everybody, it's been a while since I've done a video, so I'm going to see if I can remember how. We did a survey recently on the store and people have asked for more colouring videos and ink blending, so I thought I would show you how I made this card that I blogged on Friday. I'm not going to do the colouring of the world and I'm not going to apply the sentiment, but I am going to show you how I created the Milky Way background. Okay, so let's have a look. So I've already got my ink colours out that I use. So I use mostly oxides, but for the white, I used my Unicorn White from Hero Arts. What I tend to do when I'm colouring sunsets or I've done an Aurora Borealis and things like that is rather than just whacking a load of colour on and seeing what happens, I tend to Google an image search, do a Google image search first. I've printed off the ones that I chose from for this one. So I use these as a bit of a reference, so you can probably see I used the top one for this one in the end. So that's the one I'm going to try and recreate again. But I'm not trying to make it look exactly like that image, but it just gives me an idea of where to go. And when I'm doing a dark sky background, I tend to work on a dark grey or a dark blue cardstock because I find it easier to not have to knock back the white. And I want white ink to blend my colours into anyway. And that's where I'm going to start. So I'm going to start with getting some ink on a brush. This is not one of the brushes that we sell in store. This is actually a makeup brush, but these were the ones that I started with, and I like these for narrow elements. So I'm just gonna keep picking up some colour, and I'm just gonna do a really rough white diagonal to form the brightest part of the Milky Way area that we're gonna colour. Okay. I am not an ink expert. I tend to just keep going. My things often look really rough when I first start, but I just keep going until it looks something like I want it to do. So there we go. A rough area of white. I will add more white later once I've blended in some of the other colours. So now I'm going to start with pinks at the bottom. So I'm starting with Kitsch Flamingo, and this is one of the waffle flower blending brushes. And as you can see, I don't clean them. So I use this for pink and purple. I don't really mind. I'm not precious. I'm not the world's most professional of crafters, even though it technically is my job these days. But I just do it for whatever's easy and works for me. Sorry, I'll try and keep my hand out of the way, and I am casting a bit of a shadow. But there's a rough pinky bit for the bottom. And then I'll probably keep going in and out of all these colours. These are, again, the waffle flower blending brushes. I'm going to use these now. I'm going to pick up some brighter pink and just blend straight into the soft pink to get more of the colour that I want. And then I'll blend the bottom in so that that blend is more subtle because we don't want any sharp lines. Let's put a lid on my white so I don't get any contamination. And I haven't got a fancy brush holder at the moment because I haven't got room on my desk, so I've got an old nuts tin and the centre of one of our label reels for my thin ones. But whatever works for you. So now I'm actually going to go, I like to go from the corners in now, so I'm going to start with the darkest colour. So I've got Chipped Sapphire is my darkest blue shade. So I'm going to go over that, and you can see instantly with the darker over the grey, then any tiny bits of grey that are left over, if that was white, it would just take so much more ink to cover it. But with this, you don't have to go so mad, which I like for lots of reasons. There we go. I'm going to turn my... I also always work on, even though I work on a mat, I like to work on scrap paper, just for ease of clearing up. And it just has always worked for me. I've had paper since before mats came out, so that's just how I continue. But you don't have to do that. You could do it on a grip mat so that you don't have to hold the paper down and don't get inky fingers. But again, it's whatever suits you. I'm now gonna use some Uncharted Mariner, which is sort of a mid teal colour. So I'm gonna blend some of that into the chip sapphire. So we're following the down to the brighter blue area. And we'll put some of that down here, blending into the pink. Sorry about that, my phone's ringing. Sorry about that. I'm just going to go back into this. So I'm using more of the chip sapphire now to blend those two colours together. Sorry, I got a bit distracted by the phone call. And I'm now going to use a smaller brush. So now I've got Villainous Potion. Sorry, you should know by now that my videos are unedited, and anything can happen, and frequently does. Okay, so I'm just going to darken some of these areas up with some purple. Add a lot of purple down at the bottom because that's where it is on the image. And as you can see, it doesn't look anything like anything at the moment. It's just a real mess. But it will come together at the end. You just sort of have to have faith at this stage and keep going. So I'm going in with my brighter blue now to hit right onto the edge of my white. I'm just doing scratchy little circles and trying not to follow it as too straight a line, because everything that's galaxy-ish is quite freeform. Rick and I just did a trip to Northumberland recently where we had an evening in an observatory. I'm going to use a delicate brush now because I want to get some of the... No, I need some more white first. Yeah, we had an evening at an observatory, so we got to see some galaxies and nebulas and things up close, which was really cool. And it's just amazing how much detail you can see that you can't see with the naked eye. So yeah, highly recommend it. But you do see how much everything is sort of layered and not perfect. So I'm going to add some of this purple into the middle now. And I'm going to also add some dark, I'm going to use the same brush because some of the dark blue also runs through the middle of the white, bright white bit. Okay. And some more dark bits cutting through the white up here. Okay, so that's roughly our area's done now. I'm going to blend some more of the dark in. You could use some black around the edges if you wanted to get it super, super dark. but it's not massively necessary. Then have less ink, but try and blend some of these bits in together a bit more. So it's starting to look a bit more wavy and gentle, which is the ultimate finish that we're looking for. So we're going to need to add a bit more pink again at the bottom. But we're getting somewhere towards the image that we started out with now. Again, I'm not going for ultra realism because it would take days of faffing to get every little bit exactly as the picture is, and you know, we just want something that looks recognisably like something people might have seen, unless you're an astronomy expert. I don't think anybody's gonna say, "Ooh, that bit's not quite right." Right, so I'm fairly happy with that bit, but I would like some more white, so I will have picked up some colour off my brush, off the other ink colours, so that I don't get too dirty a white ink pad. I'll change that over, and I'm just gonna try and stipple some of the white around the edge pieces, so we've got the brighter bits where they're showing. And again, this stage looks really messy, but I'm going to blend it in a bit in a second with a drier brush. So yeah, I'm using a smaller detail brush again. Again, these are waffle flower ones, and just sort of swirling that all together so that we're getting that slightly fuzzier edge bit. Okay. So that is pretty much my inking done. I'm going to use some watercolour paint, opalescent paint, to get the splatter and the stars. But to do that, I want to dry the oxide off a bit so it doesn't react as much with the water. So excuse the heat gun. You will always get a bit of a reaction, because that's the nature of oxides. But if you just give it a quick blast, it does help a little bit. Okay, so the paints I'm using is they're Gansai Tambi opal colours. We did used to stock these, but we haven't been able to get the Gansai paints in stock for a long time, unfortunately. They are available on Amazon still, but unfortunately for us, the Japanese distributor stopped. They closed their UK distribution centre, so we haven't been able to find a way to get them into the country again at the moment. So there, I'm mixing it so it's fairly thick. I just used a water spray to spray directly into the pan, and you can see it's got a little bit of a blue opal-like finish. So where the really strong highlights are, I'm actually going to paint a rough line, and then that gives it a more starry feel, more spacey. Again, I'm just doing some random wiggles really, and then once we've got that, I'm gonna just do the old kids' school technique of splattering with my finger to get as many stars as I want. And when we did our dark sky experience last month, we were given special binoculars that have got a really high zoom, and I've never seen so many stars in the sky. It literally just looks like somebody's thrown a tub of silver glitter up there. So yeah, it was really impressive. So there's a lot more stars up there than you can normally see in the UK when you've got all the light pollution everywhere. So I'm gonna keep splattering. I want some clusters and some squiggly bits close by, so I'll get closer to my project for those. If the paint starts to dry and get a little bit too thick, which this is slightly, tiny bit more water just to make the dropping consistency better, and then you can get a bit more detail where you want it. Some shooting star type splatters. And I think that's probably about as much detail as I want on it. So it's just a case now of letting it dry. But there we have our finished Milky Way background. Start to finish under 10 minutes, so I hope you can see it's pretty easy, and just have some confidence, throw some ink on, see what happens. Okay, thanks very much for watching. Catch you soon.